Okay. So, you know what? As we wait for our guest, I just want to introduce you to a brand new series that's going to be taking place called Keeping It Candid, Evolving Forward in the Face of COVID. I'm really, really excited about our guest that we're going to be bringing on live today. He is an NFL player turned neurosurgeon, which is really exciting. He just joined. So I'm going to go ahead and add him onto the conversation. But before I do that, I need you guys to show him some love. Yeah? Okay, send him some likes, wave at him, show him some love because he's going to be joining us very, very, very soon. Okay. How y'all doing? How was y'all's day? Yeah? Okay. Myron just jumped on. I'm going to add him. Okay, y'all, this is my first time going live. All right, I'm adding Myron right now. All right, so I think he's going to jump on. Hello.
Hey, how you doing?
Hi, nice to finally meet you.
Likewise.
So I'm really, really excited about this. So today is the very first episode of a brand new series that I'm partnering up with an amazing organization with called Evolving Voice. And the name of the platform is called Keeping It Candid. And we just want to connect with people that are evolving forward in the face of COVID-19. I think there's so much negativity that's going on in the world. So we kind of just want to add a positive touch to that. How does that
All right.
sound?
Sounds
All
great.
right. Okay, so where are you at right now in the world? What's going on with you?
So I'm currently in Birmingham, Alabama. My wife's a pediatric dentist at UAB. And so I'm
Okay.
on a 2-week vacation, spending time with her down here and just getting away from Boston, the hustle and bustle, rigmarole of COVID-19. When I return, it gets back started. But I've been going 2 or 3 months straight working with coronavirus patients. So it's a much needed and much welcomed reprieve from all of that for sure.
2 to 3 months straight, like no vacation time, no time off, like.
No, yeah, no, we were going 24-hour shifts, every other
Hmm.
day or so. And as the neurosurgeon, our elective cases were sort of pushed back or canceled. And so our whole energy and whole focus was devoted on just trying to add to the manpower of COVID-19 because it was so
Hmm.
stressful for our hospital. We were overwhelmed. Bed space was limited and just trying to do the best we could. So we were sort of joining the fight. And yeah, it was all hands on deck for about 2 or 3 month stretch for real.
Okay, wow, wow. Now I just want to remind everybody this is live and this is my first time going live. So I'm trying to make these little ear pod things work, but y'all just gonna have to bear with me as I put them back and forth into my little small ears. Okay, so first of all, before we jump into the conversation, I just want to tell everybody about Evolving Voice. It's an amazing platform based out of New York that we're going to be partnering up for this series. It's a multimedia platform designed to foster self and communal evolution with intentional discussions like this one that we're having right now. And it's centered around fashion, technology, and events. And I strongly encourage everybody to go to their page to follow them. They've got an amazing line of fashion masks that you guys want to wear. As we all know, masks are really becoming a thing. Like, is that our new normal? Do you think that's our new normal,
It might
Myron?
be. It might be. Yeah.
Like literally, like the fact that I didn't think that coming into 2020 that I was going to be looking for a mask to match my outfit. Like like I feel like that's going to be like the new norm. Like
Yeah.
masks are a thing.
Yeah. Yeah. And they look good too. A lot of them look good. Unfortunately,
They
we can't wear them in
do.
the hospital, but it's all good. That's all
What
good.
if you could? What if you could? What would your mask look like?
If we could swag it up, I'd probably either have something, Cap Alpha Psi, something crimson and cream.
Oh, that's
You know,
right. You are one of those Kappa men, right?
yeah, one of those distinguished achievers. Cap Alpha
Do
Psi,
you
man,
do you roll your shoulders? Are you one of those shoulder rollers? Like, are
all the
you?
time. I can't give it to you right now. My shoulder's a little rusty, but yeah, no, we do love KSI for sure.
Okay, well, I gotta represent. I'm a member of the Divine Nine as well as Zeta Phi Beta Sorority Incorporated. So,
Indeed.
gotta represent, gotta represent.
Yeah.
Okay, so, all right, I'm gonna go ahead and get this conversation started. One of the things that I am doing to kind of break the ice, because again, this conversation is supposed to be very candid, very natural, very laid back. I have this game that I want to play where you have to choose out of one of these four categories, okay? And within each category, there's a secret, relevant, trending topic. And you have 60 seconds to speak on that topic candidly. Are you up for the
Okay,
challenge?
I am.
Okay,
Let's do it.
cool. All right. So the first category is love and relationships. The second category is entertainment and sports. The third category is politics and news. And the fourth category is community. Which one do you choose?
Oh, let's go politics and news. Is that one? That was one?
Yeah, politics and news. Okay.
Yes, that.
So currently trending on Twitter is the hashtag boycott FedEx. It's trending after two black workers were harassed on video by white customers and fired by FedEx. This happened in Leesburg, Georgia. What do you have to say candidly about that?
Well, I think it's unfortunate situation, and from
Hmm.
what I know, I think the employees were fired, unfortunately, and
Yeah,
social media has provided a good platform for people to at least know about what's going on. I'm glad that video was out so that people can see,
yeah.
this blatant racism right in front of your face,
Hmm.
prejudice against these people who are just trying to do their job. So, one thing that's been happening, I think now, which I hope continues to happen, is that videos are a lot of people to see it and feel it and have a real-time experience with these injustices that are occurring. It spreads quickly through social media, and then we're able to sort of activate and move on. And I hope that with this video being out, with this trending topic going, that people are even more aware of some of the discrepancies that happen day to day, because
Yeah.
it hasn't just started. We're just starting to really see it more and feel it more and experience it more. So yeah, we just got to do better for sure.
We have to do better. I agree. What does it feel? How does it feel as a black man seeing these injustices happen consistently? And this has been happening for so long. And I think a lot of people are getting to the point where they're just like, when does this change?
Yeah. You know, it's been something that our parents, I'm sure you guys, any black man who's on this call with you now, on
Mhm.
this IG live, who follow you, who know you, even your loved ones,
Yeah.
our parents teach us from the beginning that you have to walk a different sort of line when you walk in this country, unfortunately. Who you date, who you associate yourself with, where you are, what you look like, the kind of manner, the disposition that you're in, all these things have to be kept in sort of a frame because our parents want us to be alive, right? They want us to like come home
Yeah.
and be safe. And so we're taught that.
Yeah.
And when I speak to my white friends or my friends who are not black, and I explain to them this is how we were raised, they almost can't believe that we had to
Yeah.
have this other training along with trying to be educated and trying to accomplish our goals like everybody else. And so, I think it's now with the amount of people who are woken to this and aware. I just hope that we're able to continue to push the conversation forward and then get real action happening now. We know it's been happening for a long time, but we do know that the power of people and the power of voice and noise makes people change and makes people forward on things. And so I'm hoping that's the case here too.
Yeah. If I could retweet everything that you just said, I think you definitely nailed it. And I want to continue that lane in reference to being a black man working on the front lines. Like how does that feel to be a black doctor? And first of all, can we please show this man some love? He is a black male doctor working on the front lines of COVID-19 right now. How does that feel? We got to give you your flowers. How does that feel?
Thank you. Appreciate that. No, it feels great. It feels like a blessing. I've always wanted to
Hmm.
be a neurosurgeon ever since fifth grade actually. Before I knew I wanted to play professional football. The brain, the nervous system, it all was so intriguing to me. It inspired me. I knew that once football was done and out of my body, because I knew that wasn't a sport that was going to last my whole life, right? And I knew
Yeah.
I couldn't play until I was 40, 50 years old. And I had to have another way to drive change into the world or to have an impact, to be a valuable member of the community and to be an inspiration, hopefully. And medicine was that. I stayed true to my academics, kept a parallel road of academics and athletics going. And once football was done, moved into neurosurgery, able to do something where we can save lives and help reintegrate our patients back into their normal lives so that they're able to be valuable members of community as well. All of that means a lot. And now when I hear young people write me or tell me on the street or through social media that I inspire them and I'm a role model for them, it makes the journey that much more rewarding and that much more fulfilling. So I feel like I'm living out my God-given purpose. God gave me this ability. He provided wonderful parents and support around me to get
Mm.
this done, and we just have to get it done. And it's a blessing every day to walk into the hospital with scrubs and be able to operate on somebody, for sure.
I love your mindset. That optimism is so important because I think that all of these mediums that we have around us, whether it's social media or the news or the internet, and it's like it makes you, I don't know, it makes you like nervous and it gives you anxiety. And just to hear you speak with so much optimism, I think is so telling of how you were raised and, what football may have instilled in you. And speaking about football, I saw a documentary, of course, I did my homework. I saw a documentary that, or maybe it was an interview that you did about 10 years ago. And one of the quotes that you said was, I think about the operating room like a game. Let's talk about that. I thought that was really, really cool that you said that.
Yeah, so football, it's been a part of my life forever. Since I was 6 years old, I started playing. We're from the
Mm-hmm.
Bahamas, and my daddy created the Caribbean American Football League back home in Nassau, brought the sport to me, my brothers, and America when we moved to the United States. And I was playing since I was 6 and became the #1 ranked football player in the country in high school, went to FSU and had a great time there. And then got to the NFL with the Tennessee Titans. And I remember on the field, the adrenaline, the rush, the noise, the pressure, the responsibility that you had to have as a team member. And I played safety too, right? So I played defensive back where,
Mm.
if I made a mistake, it was going on ESPN Sports Center and everyone was going to see it, right? So,
Everybody was gonna know.
yeah, no, so for real. So you had to be like locked in and you had to be ready.
Mm-hmm.
And if there was adjustments that needed to be made, I had to be the one to call it out. And all of these things were sort of integral into my position on the team. And so when I get into the operating room, that same adrenaline, that rush, the pressure, the noise of anesthesiologists talking and other doctors talking, nurses talking, but you have to remain focused because the most important priority is the patient on the table at that moment.
Right.
You have to be able to conduct the room and move it around and call out things when you see it, just like I was a safety on the football field. Understanding pressure, mitigating pressure, being able to communicate, being prepared for that actual surgery before we step into the operating room. All of those things are analogous to my life before I started being a physician. And so using football, those traits, those characters that I was able to develop on the field, in the weight room, in the locker room with my teammates, now are coming alive as my life in medicine has been truly tremendous, and it's been a seamless transition. And so when I speak to younger people I mentor, I tell them, look, I mean, if you're looking for another path after football or after sports, it could be a woman as well. I tell them, think about medicine, really, because it is a team sport. And a lot of the things that you do
Yeah.
every single day and you develop naturally, those traits that you have designed to be a leader, they work so well in medicine, especially surgery and especially neurosurgery. So I try to
Mm-hmm.
recruit as much people as I can to come along because it's been a great ride.
Oh my gosh, I love it. Oh, okay. So, uh, how do you deal with nerves? Because I'm sure like that's got to be such a nervous field to be in. Like, how do you deal with that? Is it the same?
So a lot of it's the same, but I think what
Mm-hmm.
helps me with dealing with anxiety and maybe some nervousness before surgery is preparation, as I mentioned. If I'm ready to
Mm-hmm.
go, and if I know if I study in and out, not only option A, but option B, C, D, and E,
Yeah.
then I think I'm ready to do it, and I think I'm ready to go. Because not a lot of anatomies, right? So you go into an operating room and you expect to see a structure there, right here, but maybe it's here in this person. And so, well, how does that change your approach? How does that change your initial trajectory? How does that change your time that you can use around this vessel? Because if you retract on it too long, it potentially could bleed, and that could be an issue. So you have to have option B, C, D, and E already implanted in your mind. You have to have studied the CT scans, the MRI film, read about everything. You had to know the blood work. You had to have the proper equipment in the room, just in the event that if something went wrong, you're able to get yourself out of it very quickly. So I think I
Right.
deal with anxiety and nerves by being incredibly prepared. And that's the same thing with football. I studied, I watched film, tried to game plan as best I could so that when the game came on, I said, you know what? I ran this play in my head 5, 6 times already. I know what they're going to shut it down.
Wow, I'm sorry. I think where the connection is just getting a little shifty. If you guys can hear us clearly, make sure you show us some love. Um, all right. Okay, cool. So I'm just gonna keep this moving. What do you hope for the future of I guess just where we currently are in the world? I think this situation is just teaching us so much about ourselves. It's teaching us how to evolve and move forward. What do you hope for people to take away from this experience?
Well, I hope that people realize that, you know, pandemics and our healthcare can really bring us closer together. We're more closely connected and tied than we actually thought. Social
Hmm.
distancing is something that we all need to take, seriously. And once we do, we can see that curves are flattening. We can move ahead and try to get back to normalcy, but it takes a joint effort. It's not
Yeah.
just restricted to Europe. It's not restricted to East Asia. It's a whole world going through this. And pandemics have a way of sort of bringing people together and realizing that we are intertwined in ways that we may not have thought that we were in the past. Also, I think what this pandemic is highlighting is the fact that there's been a health disparity and a gap between people who have and don't have. We already knew that healthcare disparities existed for Black and brown people in poor neighborhoods, but now,
Right.
as you see COVID-19 hitting patients with comorbidities, pre-existing conditions, a lot more than it are people who are, on top of their healthcare status and medicated and having good management of their chronic conditions. Um, it's showing us that there's more work to be done in the healthcare, public health sector. So I hope that we glean that from this. I hope that we also glean the responsibility of quick acting and being effective with our movements, right? Rather than
Right.
waiting for a certain number of cases to occur, deaths to occur, certain cases that pop up in their geographical locations. As soon as you know that a pandemic is happening or you hear that it's happening, you make the provisions right away because your healthcare industry can be overwhelmed quickly. And we've seen it. Mass General Hospital is one of the biggest
Hmm.
hospitals in the country, where I
Right.
work. 1,000-bed hospital. We are one of the best, if not the best hospital in the country. And, our hospital was taxed. So I can imagine what the smaller community hospitals are going through. I also think about, and like run on with this answer, but I just have a lot of things when
Oh,
it comes
this
to
is great. You read my
COVID-19.
mind.
You know,
Uh-huh.
so surge capacity, surgical capacity is also something I think is incredibly important. What do I mean by that? What people need in COVID-19, they're needing oxygen support, they're needing ventilators, they're needing people to be able to manage respiratory issues. These are anesthesiologists. These are surgeons. These are people who deal with respiratory tract and intubation often.
Right.
ICUs, have the capability of providing oxygen support and ventilator support, and so do operating rooms. So if you, at baseline, increase your surgical space capacity, meaning your surgical operating theaters in hospitals in developed countries like America or developing countries like where I'm from, the Bahamas, then when the next pandemic hits, you already have developed the infrastructure so that, oh, shoot, we need oxygen support for this person. Well, we already have added 15 new operating rooms that have the capacity to provide ventilator and oxygen support. So we're already set up. And then when a pandemic's not there, we can also do more surgeries because we have more operating theaters. So we're kind of moving things along. I think it's a win-win for everybody. And these are just some of the lessons that I've seen come through COVID-19. And I hope that we're able to learn from them and continue to move forward.
And I'm so glad that you're using your voice and you're speaking up about it because I think we're all trying to figure out how to, I guess, just move forward in this new normal. And we've seen a lot of systems not working out and a lot of things not happening the way that they probably should. And a lot of that starts from the top, which of course is a man that sits in office, you know. So to hear someone who's in leadership at these hospitals voicing your opinion about what needs to change and what needs to happen, I think, like you said, that's definitely the first step. Now, what can people be doing at a local level just to protect themselves and just to make sure that they're not putting themselves in a position that could potentially harm them?
Yeah, so I think social distancing is still important. I think it's gotten
Hmm.
us here and it's helped us. So staying your 6 feet away. If you can stay home, do. If you do go out, it's encouraged, strongly encouraged to wear a mask to protect yourself. And why do we wear masks? Coronavirus has droplets spread, also through contact, but a
Right.
lot from droplet spread. So that's respiratory particles that are coming from your respiratory tract that can get into your respiratory system and sort of colonize, your respiratory tract and add to sort of a cytokine storm, which eventually lends to a very, very disruptive and deleterious medical situation. But I think social distancing, proper hand hygiene, behavior lifestyle modifications, if you do have to go out and if you are in a place that potentially has some exposure, make sure that you're changing your clothes and when you go back to your house and changing your shoes and making sure that you're washing yourself correctly, so that you're not adding that spread to maybe your loved ones who come in and who weren't exposed, because as we know, this is
Right.
an encapsulated virus it's got an envelope on it, and it sticks on surfaces for quite a long time. For me personally, when I go to the hospital, I go in with certain clothes. I take off those clothes. I put on new scrubs. I operate, go to the ICU, go to the emergency department, do all these things. And then when I'm finished during the day, I put my scrubs back on, the new ones that I add, and then I go home, directly home. I don't dilly-dally and maneuver around the hospital and try to, catch coronavirus on my clothes anymore. So, it's a very, very sort of like trivial and maybe simple thing to do. But I feel like right now we should not judge or critique people who are neurotic about their safety and their health, because this is a very important time. And this is an invisible warrior, an invisible enemy that we're fighting, that we all need to really be careful. Although the numbers are getting better, we're still not out the woods, and we still need active participation from everyone, healthcare workers and
Right.
non-healthcare workers.
Right. Well, okay. So let's be honest for a second. It's getting warm outside. The weather's getting warmer. People want to go and spend time with their friends. They're sick and tired of social distancing. They're over it. Like literally, I went hiking earlier today, and of course, I tried to social distance as much as I could. Like, how do we evolve forward? Because it seems like things aren't changing anytime soon, and people are really getting impatient. So how do you give people hope to continue to live their lives or to stay inside? Like, what do you say to those people?
Well, I'd say that it's a few months of your years on this world, on this earth, that you have to be a little bit uncomfortable. And
Mm-hmm.
I'd say that for us to get back more quickly to a sense of normalcy, it's going to take a collaborative effort. You've already been doing it, and you've been doing it very well, and we've seen the response to that. We've seen the effects. And in order for us to truly get where we want to be,
Right.
it's going to continue to take your efforts and your response, because we're still working at the hospital. We're doing our part. It's a two-pronged approach. We're doing everything we can to find antiviral therapies, to find vaccinations that are working, that are safe and efficacious, to manage these patients in the ICU and the emergency department as best we can. We're still pushing there
Mm-hmm.
from the hospital side of things, but we also need that second push. And you've been doing it so well, it just may take a couple more months or maybe even a couple more weeks of being uncomfortable. And until we get proper therapies, proper treatment, good data points, good data entries that the work that we're doing is actually effective, then we can start relaxing these things a little bit better and then getting back to where we want to. But a couple months out of years of your life on this earth, you just have to sort of get over this idea that, we have to be outside and we have to do all these things that we normally want to do. We'll get there. It just takes some
We'll
time. Be
get
patient and allow it to work.
Absolutely. Thank you for saying that. Because I'm like, are people forgetting? Excuse me. I'm like, are people forgetting that there's a pandemic that's a little like too comfortable? It's making me nervous. You know? Do you have moments
Yeah.
like that, even just as a doctor on your leisure time, where you feel like people aren't really like taking this thing seriously?
So, at times, yeah, for sure. And even family members have
Mm-hmm.
to sort of remind them that, we're still going through this, and make sure that you're protecting yourself. I'm from the Bahamas, and so I'm very close to my family down there as well. And, talk about good weather. We have it all the time. And so having a national lockdown, which we had, and people wanting to be out on the beach, wanting to, have a drink at the bar, whatever the case may be, it was very hard. It was very hard, but it's about educating people and making sure they know, and also putting a real life story to COVID-19, not putting it about figures, not making it about numbers, not making it about medical terms that the layperson doesn't know. Put an actual, true, personal narrative on this and say, look, this could be your uncle. This could be your mother. This could be you potentially. And if you
Right.
see these stories, if you see these real life experiences of people decompensating quickly from a respiratory standpoint, having end of life goals of care discussions, then it may become more real to you, may hit you, because it's hit all of us in the healthcare industry. We see it every day. We see people die, and we see people, just decompensating from being outside talking with their family a second ago, and then in the hospital, intubated, not speaking, altered mental status, not following commands. You're like, wow, that was quick, and that can happen
Just
to
like
anyone.
that. Yeah. Now I want to pivot the conversation just a little bit, being that are an ex NFL player, and as you know, it was recently released the 2020 schedule, and I know that fans aren't going to be allowed to, of course, attend the games, but that's still a contact sport, and so as a doctor and as an ex NFL player, what's your opinion on that?
So it's hard to change the rules of football if you want to start the game again, for sure. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
passing body fluids from tackling, being in the huddle, even training, working out, being in the weight room, lifting weights. All these things can be very difficult to social distance. It's a sport, requires people to be in close contact. You have collisions.
Right.
But outside of the sport, in the locker room, how can guys comport themselves so that they are staying as safe as they possibly can, understanding the symptoms that they may be getting, and being highly vigilant of any symptoms, and so that they can be tested. Having tests available for all these players, multiple tests if needed, to make sure that we know tests are more sensitive and specific now and come back a lot quicker than they used to. So I think those are a little bit more accurate. Making sure that you're adhering to a proper diet to keep your immune system and your immune cells and the activation of those enzymes in your immune system working very well. Social distance as best you can within the facility. When you're off the practice field, can you be in the cafeteria away from each other? Can you be in the team meeting room away from each other? So there's things that players can control, but the things that they can't actually playing the sport, it's going to be difficult. I would say to the commissioner, if I was speaking to him and if he was on this call with us right now, I would say go low and go slow. Be very conservative. Be careful that these players, these staff members, the coaches, equipment managers, trainers, everyone around this facility, they're all are going to be putting their life in jeopardy based on the fact that we want to get back to sports. We know sports have
Right.
played an important role in getting our country back to its normal rhythm after 9/11, after Hurricane Katrina. We went back to sports because it was an escape for us in a way. And it can be the same way here, but what you don't want is, a reactivation of the virus to hit and you knock down a whole team, a whole staff, and you say, you know what, maybe we should wait just a little bit longer. Maybe we should delay it a bit longer before we had true vaccinations and true antiviral therapies, and the trend was continuously
Right.
going down.
It's like, what are we rushing to? That's the question that I have. I feel like I say that to myself a lot these days. It's like, what are we rushing to? I've kind of found a new normal for myself just in the midst of everything that's happening right now. I'm discovering new things about myself that I didn't necessarily have the time to do before. Are there any new discoveries that you found about yourself or that you've had the time to during this pandemic?
Probably that I know more about medicine than I thought I knew. Because as a surgeon, honestly, you're not dealing with respiratory issues all the time, right? We're doing brain and spine. And so when I think
Right.
about these elements of COVID-19 that you're dealing with and that you're trying to, coordinate chest x-rays, CT scans of the chest,
Hmm.
making sure patients are prone, oxygen saturations, all these things that you learned in medical school that sort of went in and out. Now that you're operating on the brain, you're like, oh, shoot, this came back to me. So I think just from an
Mm.
educational academic standpoint, I had a lot more stored away in this big head than I thought I did, but it's helped me. It's helped me for sure, thankfully.
Yeah, it always helps to have a big head. That's what I like to tell people when they try to throw shade at me. Um, okay, so before we get to questions, sorry, like I said, I have small ears, so these things just don't want to stay in here. Before we get to questions, what is the first thing that you're gonna do when all of this is over? Because again, you said you've worked 2 to 3 months straight. You're on vacation
Yeah.
now, but what a week too? That's really not enough, right?
Yeah, it's not. It's not really. I think the first thing that I will try to do is get away. Probably get back home to the Bahamas. See
Mm,
my goddaughter and my cousins, my grandparents, everyone, and just make sure I say hi to them and check in. I like to get there as much as possible because you know, working so hard in the United States. And working with neurosurgery, the schedule is crazy, and you never know when you have those moments to get back. And I like to take my wife there too with me. She came, once with me before. She'd been to the Bahamas before we got married, so there was, I think allowing her to see my culture a little bit more, and for my family to get to know her even more instead of through Zoom. We Zoom all the time, but one
mhm.
on one and having some home cooked conch fritters and peas and rice would be good for us and good for our health. So we want to do that for sure.
It sounds like a few people in the chat are telling you to some suggestions for things that you should do.
Grab a collect and some conch salad. You already know, of course, of
Hey,
course.
I love it. I love it. Okay, and one last question I want to throw in there because again, the purpose of this live is to give people hope, a sense of hope, bring some positivity to the conversation, show people how exactly they can evolve forward in the midst of what's happening right now. So, how would you describe a rich life? Would you say that you have a rich life?
A rich life. I would.
A
I would.
rich
Yeah,
life.
certainly.
And
Yeah,
what does that
yeah.
mean
No,
to you?
I'd say family first, right? I'll say
Mm-hmm.
family, having the love and support of my four older brothers, my parents who are amazing, my nieces, obviously my wife, just everyone around you who can add value to your journey, who can speak positivity to you, who can uplift you and buttress you forward. That means so much. And despite all the iniquities and transgressions that sort of happen around the world, if you have that backing of your family to sort of rely on and lean on, it makes everything right. I think having a rich life also is under the umbrella of having a relationship with Christ and being, fully vertically
Mm,
aligned with His way and His will. Again, when you're in these moments that are tense and very tough, He remains a constant, steady driving force. You can hold on to His unchanging hand, right? He doesn't move. He doesn't change. He stays the same. He was the same yesterday. He will be the same today and tomorrow. And so, if you
absolutely.
want that consistency, you can rely on your faith. So, I think that is probably the best description I can give of a rich life. I believe I have it. I'm blessed too. And
Hmm.
when I speak to my young mentees, I keep mentioning my mentees because I feel
I
like at
love
this
that.
point, I'm 33 years old. I got gray hair in my beard. It's time to sort
Okay,
of
now you're gonna have to
look
stop
back.
that now.
Just
Don't
saying,
start that
just saying, man.
old.
Old man, my back hurts.
Okay.
My boys in Florida say
Okay.
my back hurts. I gotta start to give back. I gotta start to sort of look to these other young people who are coming up who are eventually going to replace me, and if I can help inspire them any kind of way,
Hmm.
that's the way I like to do it. And explaining this rich life, I haven't put it in that frame before, but I think I will. So thank you for that. Explaining about how
Hmm.
family and faith are important. I think that's a good way to start set them on the right track.
Family and faith. I agree. So very important. I think I want to weigh in on this too, if you don't mind. I want to take some of your shine. You've given us so many just great nuggets, and I appreciate your honesty and your transparency. And I just want to piggyback on that. Family and faith is so very important. My story is, I grew up in foster care, so a lot of my friends become my family, and my church home in LA, they're my family, and that's just so important. And I think definitely during this time, even though you can't necessarily like reach out and touch somebody unless you wash your hands and you do all the other stuff. You can still have these special moments, these special conversations where you can uplift each other, and you can still be accountability partners, and all that stuff is just so very, very important. Now, I'm going to go ahead and go to the chat. A lot of people have been showing us some love. Let's see. Have you guys submitted any questions? Do you have any questions for Mr. Myron? Okay, here we go. First question. Has this pandemic changed the course of what you want to do for the future in medicine?
So not so much as far as my own personal goal. I still want to do neurosurgery. I'm in it right now. I'm going in specifically pediatric. But what I would say is
Hmm.
that, when I think about my practice and when I think about operating on folks, I think all hospital systems are going to have a built-in pandemic sort of like safeguard. I think we're not
Hmm.
going to get hit flat-footed again like we were before. I think that there's going to be built-in provisions, built-in frameworks, issues that sort of address pandemics in the future, so that we're able to get ahead of it next time. So I still will go into neurosurgery. Or I am in one now, and I will go specifically into pediatric neurosurgery, and then obviously be aware that if another pandemic hits, how can we help get over the curve as fast as we can by learning from this experience that we're going through right now in 2019, 2020.
Mm, I love that. I love that. Does anybody else have any other questions? If you do, please submit them right now. Okay, you guys, make sure you show some love to Mr. Myron Rolle. Also, I want to encourage everybody to follow Evolving Voice. Again, they are our partners with this amazing discussion. They're going to be partnering up with us as we sit down and have more amazing conversations. Also, I want to encourage you guys to also follow my positive media company, Sweet Candor TV. Also, follow all the amazing things Dr. Rolle is doing and follow his career. Make sure you show him some love. Since we did, oh, actually, we have one more question. Let's see. All right. Do you enjoy brain surgery or spinal surgery more? There we go.
Wow, great question. Man, I hope none of my spine surgeons are listening to this, but I do enjoy the brain pretty much a little bit more because in children, they have such complex brains and there's such honestly cool pathology that you see in their brains um, that I just have gravitated towards that a lot more. The spine is
Uh-huh.
amazing. The spine is has a lot of very important biomechanical aspects to it. There's a lot of different physics that's associated with the levers and the strength and the strain that you can put in instrumentation in our patients to sort of stabilize and correct their deformities. But I think the brain in and of itself kind of fits with my future trajectory in neurosurgery. I'm going into global neurosurgery as well. I'm spending the next year and a half overseas in Uganda and other parts of
Wow, that
sub-Saharan
sounds
Africa.
amazing.
And so, brain trauma is one of the leading causes of neurosurgical, sort of cases in the developing world. And so, when people climbing up trees to get cassava plants or get, their coconuts, or they're playing soccer on the street, or they're driving their mopeds around the streets of Bolivia and they fall and
Hmm.
hit their head. These are ways that I can impact society in a very vulnerable population. And so the brain sort of comes first then and there. And so to answer that question, yeah, I say right now I'm probably leaning more towards the brain being one of my more exciting parts of neurosurgery as opposed to the spine.
I love that. I love that. Okay, I think I saw one more question from Thelmy. She said, "How have your interactions with your family changed or stopped given your high exposure to COVID?" Great question.
Excellent question. So, as I mentioned, I'm here in Birmingham, Alabama right now, and my wife has stayed away from me for the last 2 or 3 months. She would have been with me in Boston otherwise. So that's been different. And then, seeing my parents has been difficult as well. They're older, they're hypertensive, and one is diabetic. So, making
Hmm.
sure that I'm very safe around them and making sure that I was completely quarantined before seeing them. That was important. Zoom calls have been really taken over. I didn't know Zoom existed before this
It's a
COVID.
thing.
It is a thing, right? So every Sunday, I mean, we
Yeah.
got family in Florida, we got family in Pennsylvania, some in Georgia. Obviously, my wife in Birmingham here, her family in Georgia. So we get together on Zoom and we're able to see each other. So our communication actually has improved since COVID because we typically weren't seeing each other
Really?
as much.
Uh-huh.
Absolutely. And so,
Hmm.
through chaos, right? You hear through chaos comes opportunity sometimes. And so
Yeah.
through this flux of, interchanging and dynamic world that we're in with COVID-19 and this pandemic, our communication has actually improved because we need to, right? We can't physically see each other, but we can get on the phone and call. We can use FaceTime. We can Zoom
Mm.
with each other. And so we're learning more about each other and seeing each other grow. And that's been helpful.
I was having a conversation with one of my friends earlier today, and I feel like it's teaching parents how to be better parents. Parents are able to spend more time with their kids.
Mm.
I don't know if you have any kids, but just as somebody who also doesn't have any kids, I think that's very special because I feel like before a lot of our teachers were raising our kids, and I think that that's something that our society has kind of so I think it's really dope that people are actually able to spend more time with each other. Uh, yeah, that's important. I feel like you said before, those are things that we kind of took for granted.
Yeah.
Absolutely, absolutely. Okay, do we have any other questions? Okay, what is your schedule during this pandemic? Oh,
Yeah.
actually,
So
here's one.
go
Will
ahead. Sorry.
FSU win a championship again? Sorry,
Yeah.
I was trying to find a way
Yeah.
to
No, we
cut you
will.
straight.
We will. I got my Go Noles shirt on.
Okay, wait.
Shout
If
out.
I knew you
Shout
were
out to
gonna wear
Florida
that, I would
State.
have worn my UCF shirt.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what that school is actually. No one knows what UCF is.
First of all,
But
you're a hater. Let's stop hating. This is a positive interview until you decided to come in here
true.
with that mess.
Sorry, yeah. But no, we're struggling. We've struggled the past couple of years, but we have a new coach. We're excited about it. His name is Mike Norvell. Came from Memphis,
Mm,
and so hopefully we'll do some things. First of all, we need to get the season going. Hopefully, we get the season going. If not, then we have to wait another year to get it popping. But hopefully, we'll
yeah,
see.
I
Yeah.
don't know. If you guys need some advice, you could always talk to our head coach and maybe even talk to some of our players. Maybe we can give you guys some advice.
Yeah, it's a mid major, or UCF is, so
It's
we're
called
not really.
UCF.
Yeah, sorry. We're not. we're not concerned with mid majors. We play bigger sports and bigger teams. So
Wow.
yeah.
Okay. Well, you see all the Knights shouting out UCF. They came to support. Okay. Well, you know what? Can we delete these FSU comments, please? Somebody. We need to make sure that we get somebody from Instagram on here next time.
Oh man,
Okay.
oh man.
So
I
I
appreciate
know this conversation.
UCF. I appreciate UCF.
Thank you. Thank you. And I know you're originally from Florida? Because I've
So
heard
no,
you
so
throw out
yeah,
Florida a few times. Or
yeah, no,
Jersey.
Jersey, yeah, Jersey, and then went down to Florida
Okay.
after football, yeah, at high school.
Okay. Okay, cool. Cool, cool, cool. I mean, because I didn't think you were cool enough to be from Florida.
Oh man,
That was another one.
okay.
Okay, all right, guys. I'm gonna stop with the insults this time. Okay, so I don't want to keep you long. I think this was a great discussion, very, very positive. You gave us a lot of great gems and a lot of great knowledge. Is there any advice or just a piece of hope that you can leave our viewers with?
Yeah, I'd say that we are obviously doing our job and trying to work as hard as we can in the healthcare industry. Medical professionals
Mm-hmm.
doing everything they can. They are selfless. You see nurses, CRNAs, food transport, material management, secretaries, security, first responders, doctors, scientists, everyone in the healthcare industry just putting forth a valiant effort away from their family, being apart from their loved ones, risking it all, honestly, to make sure that we're getting back um, on schedule. And I think the commitment or the repayment for that sacrifice is for everyone else who's not a healthcare worker to continue to do your part, spread positivity, spread education about what we're doing in this pandemic right now and how we need to continue to be conservative with how we move and the social distancing and the behavioral lifestyle modifications we've talked about. It's important right now, not to make a football analogy, but my whole life has been about football. We need to be a joint team. Everyone is playing
Mm.
together on the same team towards one collective goal, and that's getting us back to being the country and the world that we once were. And once we do that, then we can celebrate on the other end of it and say, you know what? We made it through. We fought through. We endured. We were forged, and we made it. And I think we all want to say that, but it's going to take some time, and it's going to take a collaborative effort, collective effort from everyone. And so I'd encourage people to continue to be positive, continue to look forward, and continue to do their part. And because your role is important, regardless of where you are, what you look like, what you do, you have an important role and responsibility in this giant schema of getting our country, our world back to where we want it to be.
I love it. I love it. Thank you so much for using your voice. Um, Thank you. Thank you for all that you're doing for our society on the front lines during COVID. Thank you. Now, before I end this conversation, I want to share with everyone three step tools to remember that Evolving Voice stands by and that they want to encourage you to do as well. One, level up. Think creativity, not automatically. Number two, live curiously. That means ask questions, consider all possibilities, and assume the best. And three, listen to learn, listen to understand rather than to respond. I think that's something that we're all very guilty of, where, we're always so quick to react or to respond, and rather than just listening to hearing what somebody really has to say. So, again, I just want to thank you for joining us today. If you guys have questions for him, make sure that you slide in his DMs, or how else can they reach you?
So I have a website, RolleFoundation.org. It
Mm-hmm.
talks. My foundation actually works with foster children in Florida and the Bahamas. So we work with DCF. Yeah, Department of Children and Families for sure. So yeah, my foundation, you can slide in there, and we are pretty responsive. My brother McKinley, my older brother, he helps manage that for me, and we've been trying to be very responsive to all the people who have reached out, whether it be for interviews or just some advice or maybe some other partnership. It's a good platform and something that we do. I'm not as responsive on social media just because there's so many things happening, but our website is probably a more formal and more organized vehicle to get in touch with us. So yeah.
I love it. Well, again, guys, please support him and all the great things he's doing. And thank you guys for tuning in to the very, very first episode of Keeping It Candid, Evolving Forward in the Face of COVID. Again, Dr. Myron Rolle, thank you for joining us today, and enjoy the rest of your evening.
Thanks, Candy. Appreciate it.
Bye. Thank you.
Yeah.
All right, guys, I want to just thank you all again for joining the conversation and welcoming Myron with so much love and questions and, just staying active during this conversation. We're going to keep this conversation going. I've got tons of guests lined up, so please stay tuned. Our next conversation is going to be surrounded around foster care. We're going to be highlighting a face of foster care next Thursday, so join me right here on live. And then my next conversation with Evolving Voice is going to be on the 4th of June. So guys, thank you again for tuning in, and I'll see you next time. Bye.